We just spoke to head coach Bill Belichick after Thursday night's 24-10 loss to the Bills. He's not happy, and frankly, neither am I. And frankly, I'm not happy with him, Alex. And I asked him about it last night and sort of what's the problem with the offense, and we can get right into that. But personally, I just think, and I guess it's, we've mentioned it before, it's my first sort of season here on the beat, but I just think Bill Belichick needs to take more accountability for what the heck's going on. And I understand it's the middle of the season, and I understand you're not going to go in there, at the beginning of December and make sweeping changes. But right now, they just have nothing going on offense. They put in just 10 points. Their most productive play is from a special teamer. It's just a disaster. And let's just start with the offense. They scored 10 points and had absolutely nothing going.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's a game. I said this a couple times. That's a game, they lost in April with a number of the moves they made, both in terms of the roster personnel and the coaching personnel. They didn't have the horses to compete last night. And the biggest thing, you have to look at the play calling. You have to. When the quarterback is on the sideline cussing out the decisions of the play caller, you can't really start anywhere else, especially given the way this look. Tom Brady and Josh McDaniels used to get in their spats, right? They would bark back and forth, but it wasn't. It was productive,
right?
It's not usually a productive way of solving things. You don't want to.
Well, it was productive, and it was also after they had each won a Super Bowl in the NFL. So let's start there.
Yeah,
they had success in doing so, but continue.
But I'm saying, they would kind of go back and forth, and they'd figure it out. They're both fiery personalities. They'd figure it out. That's not what this was to me. This was a guy in Mac Jones who's at the end of his rope with what's going on, because it's been the same thing week after week after week with them. And and by the way, it's not just Mac Jones. I wrote about this on 98.5thesportshub.com. It's up right now. Kendrick Bourne with some very pointed comments, and I would be surprised if we see Kendrick Bourne again this year, given what he said. You really don't hear Patriots players talk like that. Nelson Aguilar, there was some comments. Controlled, I guess would be the term in what he said, but along the same path, the same line of thinking, and I think he was incorrect in what he said. And I think, I can't tell if I'm freezing in and out here. My internet's being a little weird while I try to pull this up.
A little bit, but you're we got you back now, I think.
Okay,
but yeah, you're pulling up quotes, right? But yeah, just go ahead.
Yeah,
okay.
So here's the quotes from Kendrick Bourne. We need to. Well, so first off, from Mac, we've all seen the clip. Throw the effing ball. Effing short game sucks. That's what he said. And he clarified after the game. He just felt they were chasing points in that game, and they needed to be more aggressive at that point. We don't know exactly when in the game he said that, because they showed that clip after the game. My guess would be early in the second half. It's just a guess. Kendrick Bourne after the game. We need to scheme up better. We need to know what they're doing. We need to know what they, talking about the defense, want to do on third down. They call this, we call that, and it falls right into what they want. That's a game plan thing, right? Yep. That's a game. More from Bourne here. They had 30 first downs. We had 8. It's something they were doing against us was working, and something we were doing against them was not working. Bourne continued. We've got to get the ball downfield. Mac needs more time. He's obviously running around. It's hard to get the ball downfield when you can't really have time to throw. And then the Nelson Aguilar quote.
And he clarified, I want to add to Bourne as well, because he sort of clarified and said no ill will towards the offensive line when talking about the time that Mac has. And I mean, that was also him sort of just backing up his teammates. But it also seems like, again, it's more of a scheme thing when they're talking about giving Mac more time, not necessarily the detriment of the offensive line.
Yeah. And then finally from Nelson Aguilar, he was asked about the way the Patriots are kind of putting together their pass concepts. That's not for me to worry about. I train my routes, work hard, and do what I'm asked to do. I'm not a coach. I'm just a receiver trying to play hard and make plays that come my way. And that, to me, sounded like something that Mac Jones actually said back in camp when these issues first began. I remember it was like I don't know, the fourth or fifth day of camp, and Mac was
Mhm.
getting peppered with questions about this. And he basically said something similar, something along the lines of, it's the coach's job to call the plays, it's the player's job to execute them, which I kind of read, and I feel the same way about this Nelson Aguilar comment. I kind of read as, what do you want me to do? I'm doing what they're telling me to do.
Right.
What more do you want me to do? Right? They can't go out there and run different plays. It doesn't work that way. So there's clearly frustration, and I get it, and you see it. To go back to Mac's comments, right? Whether we don't know if he was saying short game or run game or whatever, it sounded like he was talking about the short game. He's right. Among other things with this offense, they've become one-dimensional at times this year. And Ramondre Stevenson's a fantastic player. He is having a great year, but he is their only option right now for explosive plays, it feels like, and teams are keying in on that. And he's not as effective as he was earlier in the year against teams like Detroit and Cleveland. And part of it is they're facing better defenses. Part of it is teams are daring the Patriots to go elsewhere with the football.
Right.
And their only counter right now seems to be one-off gadget plays. Yeah, they throw a touchdown to Marcus Jones last night. That's not sustainable offense.
No.
They've tried some of these end arounds. The Patriots wide receivers and tight ends collectively are averaging 3 yards per carry this year. That's not enough.
No.
And then, and again, I broke this down deeper on 985thesportszone.com. This wasn't the case last year. They weren't perfect last year offensively. Of course not. But in year one of a rebuild with the rookie quarterback, it felt like they were in a good spot. Mac showed he belonged in the NFL. You saw guys that they had just brought in, Nelson Aguilar, Hunter Henry, Jonnu Smith, maybe starting to grow into their roles. What's changed? Well, let's go through it here, Mike, for a second.
Yep.
Yes, they lost their 2 starting guards. They did. But they replaced one with a guy who realistically is a starting caliber player in Mike Onwenu. Like, that's not a downgrade. And they invested a first-round pick to fill the other spot. And if you're going to invest a first-round pick in a player, the expectation is he's a day one starter and a year one starter.
Right.
They upgraded at receiver. They used their second pick on a wide receiver, adding speed, something they desperately needed. And they upgraded at the X from N'Keal Harry, Devontae Parker. Significant upgrade. Yeah, there's been injuries this year. There were injuries last year. Nelson Aguilar missed a significant amount of time last year. Damian Harris, Ramondre Stevenson both did. And David Andrews was the only player on the offensive line to start all 17 games. Everybody else missed multiple games. So what's changed? And that's the question Bill wouldn't answer last night, but what's changed is the coaching.
He can't do it. It's the coaching. He won't say it.
You'll say there's been other changes. Oh, they flipped the tackles. That's a coaching decision. They got rid of the fullback. That's a coaching decision.
Yep.
Different, offensive game plan, which, by the way, they're on like their third offensive scheme of the year. Third offensive scheme in like 5 months. Coaching decision. So you can understand why the players are frustrated. Like, people talk about, they need a tank and they need a draft and they have so many needs. The roster's not like, they have talent on offense. I don't know that they're like the Bills, right, on the other side with all those players, but they have players on offense because we saw it last year. They were sixth in the league in scoring last year. They're 22nd right now, and they didn't really lose anybody,
right?
Unless you think Ted Karras and Shaq Mason combined are a touchdown a game, or worth a touchdown a game. They didn't lose anybody, so you have to look at the coaching.
I mean, you take injury out of it for a second, right?
You don't even have to, because they were hurt last year too.
Right, but my point is that you make the changes on the offensive line, you get rid of Shaq, and you bring in Cole Strange, but you mentioned it yourself. You move Onwenu in. The offense gets better. You have Mac Jones in the second year, which is, typically usually that sort of leap year where quarterbacks start to get it even further. And then they hand him this on the offensive coaching staff. I mean, I tweeted it last night and I wrote about it on CLNS, but I mean, I talked about malpractice from the coaching staff as far as the whole Bailey Zappi saga and the way they treated Mac Jones. They've treated Mac Jones. They've given that guy nothing this season. And, sure, there's the Malcolm Butler thing and there's the Brady thing, but I truly believe that this is the worst coaching decision Belichick has ever made, is not giving Mac Jones what he needs in his second year. Because you talk about the Brady thing, this was his chance to, redeem himself after that. And really, you go and you get a guy in the draft, and he looks so great in the first year, and you lose Josh McDaniels. Go get somebody else. Don't just bring in your friend that, you want to give a job because you drink beers with him on the freaking sideline after the game. Like, it's nonsense. It really is. And it's too bad for a guy like Mac Jones, who, has he been great? No. He has not been perfect. But he hasn't even been given the chance to try to, succeed. There's nothing there. And you go back to Ramondre. He played 53 of 54 offensive snaps last night. This is where you bring injury into it. They're using him, and they're just saying, try and make something happen. But they're running the ball to him on 2nd and 1 with 40 seconds left, calling timeouts. It not only is, it's scheme, it's coaching. Going back to scheme too, I'm kind of pouring out all my thoughts here at once, but
Yeah.
More on Bourne, he said, no Von Miller, we got to take advantage of that. No Micah Hyde, they're more soft in what they're doing. They're more conservative. We got to take advantage of not just having 5-yard throws. They don't even scheme it up to try to get first downs, Alex. I was talking with Aaron Schatz from Football Outsiders when we were watching the game. Both third down attempts at one point in the second quarter, Mac's throwing to guys that aren't even past the sticks. It's like they're not even trying to move the football. They're just, I don't know if it's trying not to lose. I don't know if it's trying to win the time of possession battle, which they brutally failed at last night. It was something like 40-20. It's just, there's nothing there.